We are in the Orts log house, which we believe was built around 1790 something. It's really very hard to say. The original structure, which is the west half of the house, was attached or very close to the hotel that Henry Bortz ran. It was probably, again we have to speculate, used as the cookhouse, which was common in those days because that was the chance of fire was in the kitchen, and to have a separate building from your main building was a pretty good idea. At some point, beginning of the 19th century, it was picked up and moved alongside the road, and the room we're now sitting in was added to it, and it became the home of Henry Bortz's widow, and remained in that location that way along Hamilton Street until I think it was 1989. It was slated for destruction, and members in the community picked it up again for a second time, moved it down the road a little further to where we are now in the Wescosville Park. One of the things we've been able to preserve about the building is the use of whitewash. The building is whitewashed inside and out. This was very common at that time. European travelers remarked about how everything was white in America. Whitewash would keep down mold and all sorts of other things. It was easy, it was cheap, and it was clean. So it was used, and we've kept at least that feel when we did the reconstruction.
The logs are typically chestnut or oak, and you have the log chinking. Sometimes these are even stone-filled. At the corner here you can see that these are dovetailed together, and they often put a board that's just on the corner, because this is where the water would get in and would rot the log most quickly. The doorways were typically low. There's two reasons for that, perhaps. One, to conserve heat. The second is people were actually a bit shorter in those days.
The fireplace here has been reconstructed. We don't have the original fireplace, but it is a functioning fireplace, and we have cooked food on it, which is always a lot of fun. Here we have a double-bladed cabbage cutter. This will be put over a pot, and the cabbage head run across it to turn it into sauerkraut. Just for fun, here are the sorts of items that children may have played with at the time. Pretty clever, I think. And in those days they had adjustable lighting. It'd go up and down. A little bit of fun. There are two types of spinning mill. They spun wool and they spun flax. The giveaway as to which is the flax wheel is larger than the spinning mill for wool. That's usually how you can tell right off the bat. Flax, by the way, looks like this. It is a plant that is threshed, and the fibers are inside the plant. And those are separated out and then spun flax into linen. I think we'll go upstairs, take a look at the bedrooms. Gonna have to take a candle with us. As you may guess, we're now on the second floor of the log house. This was, of course, the sleeping quarters. This would be a typical bed that...
So here we have the rope, which is the frame there, holding up your hay mattress. A little feather bed. A little itchy, but warm.
Well, probably more than 2 people would sleep in, particularly if there were children. And on the other side of the room, not unusual, would be yet another bed. At the time, people slept here. They spent their day outside on the farm working, which is one reason these houses are rather small. They could be easily heated, and you just weren't here most of the time. Most of the time, you were outside working, or working by the cooking hearth, if you were on the distaff side of the family. This is commonly called a dowry chest. At the time, girls would collect things for their wedding, for their marriage. Linens, gowns, dressing gowns, all sorts of things, and they would keep them in their dowry chest. This was a very important financial transaction as part of a marriage. And of course, in the middle of the night, if you don't want to go outside into the cold, to the outhouse, there's always the chamber pot. As you may imagine, there was no running water. In the morning, you'd have a vase of water sitting here. You'd, break the ice, perhaps, in the morning, pour it into the bowl and wash up. Mark Twain talks about this growing up, the children collecting around the wash basin and in the cold winter, splashing water in their face. He said it was very invigorating. And this part of the log house, we've collected a number of items that were commonly used on the farm. For example, a wooden shovel. Yes, a wooden shovel. Metal was pretty valuable, sometimes hard to come by. There are things like draw knives for, it could be used for making shingles. Then of course, there wasn't much in the way of refrigeration, and you had to carry ice blocks around. You would chink this into the ice block, pick it up, and move it around using these tongs. Back in the corner here is a scythe. I gotta be very careful here. Pretty big. But again, used for harvesting wheat. And of course, all sorts of axes. Wood was, of course, one of the main materials that was used. This house was built of wood, furniture was built of wood, and of course they heated the houses with wood. Pottery jugs, of course, also very common. Again, it was cheap. Glass was much more expensive, so there was a lot of pottery in use. And one more fun thing. On top of the stove, this is your waffle iron. Waffles remain very popular, and were popular at the time. It's a good place to visit around Christmas time. We step out a little bit. We have a fire in the fireplace. Also, and today I'm talking when we're having our Harvest Festival. Which again will be grinding corn. We also have a museum down at Olympic Park, which open Sundays 1 to 4. You ought to come and check us out. A lot of good local history. So, well, thank you so much for listening to me.